Persona starts with pictures of camera gear and projectors illuminating and extending many brief realistic impressions, including an execution, an erect penis, a tarantula bug, cuts from a comedic quiet film reel previously found in Bergman's jail, portraying a man caught in a room, being pursued by death and Satan, and the butcher of a sheep. The last, and longest, glimpse includes a kid who awakens in a clinic close to a few bodies, perusing Mikhail Lermontov's A Legend Within Recent Memory, Bar Tids Jalt, in the film, and stroking a hazy picture of Elizabeth as well as Alma's countenances. A youthful medical attendant, Alma, depicted by Bibi Andersson, is brought by the head specialist and accused of the consideration of stage entertainer Elizabeth Vogler, depicted by Liv Ullmann, who has, in spite of the absence of any analyzed disability, become quiet. The emergency clinic overseer, depicted by Margaretha Crook, offers her own shoreline house as a spot for Alma to nurture Elizabeth back to well-being. However, Elizabeth is almost mental when the film starts. She responds with outrageous frenzy after seeing a Vietnamese Buddhist priest's self-immolation on TV, and giggles jokingly at Alma's radio drama. As the two ladies leave the emergency clinic together, Alma peruses out loud a letter Elizabeth's significant other has sent her, which incorporates a photo of her young child. Together in the manager's bungalow, Elizabeth starts to unwind, however she remains totally quiet and non-responsive. Alma talks continually to end the quiet, at first about books she is perusing and paltry issues, then, at that point, progressively about her own tensions and relationship with her life partner, Carl Henrik, who admonishes her for lacking desire, however not with my profession, I guess in some more prominent way. Alma continually analyzes herself to Elizabeth and starts to become joined to her. As the demonstration closes, Alma admits to undermining her life partner in a menage a quatre with underage young men. She became pregnant, and had Carl Henrik's companion cut short the child, and that was that. She doesn't know how to intellectually handle the fetus removal. Elizabeth is heard to say, "You should head to sleep, or you'll nod off at the table," however Alma excuses it as a fantasy. Elizabeth later denies talking. Alma crashes into town, taking Elizabeth's letters for the postbox, yet stops by the side of the road to peruse her message. She finds in Elizabeth's letters that Elizabeth has been breaking down her and contemplating her. Alma returns upset, incidentally breaks a drinking glass on the trail, and passes on the shards there to cut Elizabeth. At the point when Elizabeth's feet begin to drain, her look meets Alma's intentionally, and the actual film falls to pieces. The screen streaks white, scratch marks show up all over the place, the picture, the sound ascends and shrieks, and the film seems to loosen up as brief blazes of the preface return for parts of a second each. At the point when the film resumes, it is following Elizabeth through the house with a thick haze on the focal point. The picture clears up with a sharp snap when she peers through the window prior to strolling outside to meet Alma, who is teary and unpleasant. At lunch, she tells Elizabeth she has been wounded by Elizabeth discussing her despite her good faith, and beseeches her to talk. At the point when Elizabeth doesn't respond, the medical caretaker flips out. Alma attempts to go after her and pursues her through the cabin, however Elizabeth hits her during the following fight, making Alma's nose begin dying. In reprisal, Alma snatches a pot of bubbling water off the oven and is going to excursion it at Elizabeth, yet stops in the wake of hearing Elizabeth moan, "No." Alma makes sense of that Elizabeth could never have spoken had she not dreaded passing. Alma goes to the restroom, cleans up, and attempts to get a hold of herself. She then, at that point, goes to Elizabeth and disappointed by her lethargy tells her, "You are out of reach. They said you were solid, however your disorder is of the most awful kind, it causes you to appear to be sound. You act it so well everybody trusts it, everybody with the exception of me, since I realize how spoiled you are inside." Elizabeth attempts to leave, yet Alma seeks after and keeps on greeting her. Elizabeth escapes, and Alma pursues her asking for absolution. That night, Elizabeth opens a book she is perusing and finds a popular Stroop report photo of Jews being captured in the Warsaw Ghetto. Elizabeth gazes at subtleties in the photo, however generally at the kid with his hands raised. That evening, Alma watches Elizabeth rest, breaking down her face and the scars she covers with cosmetics. She hears a man hollering outside, and tracks down Elizabeth's significant other, Mr. Vogler, in the nursery. Mr. Vogler, depicted by Gunnar Bjornstrand, botches Alma for his better half, and in spite of her more than once contributing with, "I'm not your significant other," conveys a talk about his adoration for herself and the child they have together, rehashing words he kept in touch with Elizabeth in the initial demonstration, "We should see each other as two restless youngsters." Elizabeth stands unobtrusively adjacent to the two, holding Alma's hand, and Alma concedes her adoration for Mr. Vogler and acknowledges her job as the mother of Elizabeth's youngster. The two have intercourse with Elizabeth sitting discreetly close to the bed with a look of frenzy all over, and subsequently, Alma cries. The picture of Elizabeth becomes hazy. The peak of the film comes the following morning. Alma gets Elizabeth in the kitchen with a tormented demeanor all over, holding an image of a little child. Alma then, at that point, portrays Elizabeth's biography back to her, while the camera centers firmly around Elizabeth's anguished face. At a party one evening, a man tells her, "Elizabeth, you have it essentially all in your ordnance as lady and craftsman. Be that as it may, you need protective instincts." She chuckles, since it sounds senseless, yet the thought sticks to her, and she allows her significant other to impregnate her. As the pregnancy advances, she develops progressively stressed over her extending and enlarging body, her obligation to her kid, the aggravation of birth, and forsaking her vocation. Everybody Elizabeth knows continually says, "Would she say she is delightful? She has never been so lovely." However, Elizabeth makes rehashed endeavors to cut short the hatchling. After the kid is conceived, she is spurned by it, and petitions God for the passing of her child. The youngster grows up tortured and frantic for fondness. The camera goes to show Alma's face, and she rehashes a similar discourse. At its decision, one portion of the essence of Alma and the other of Elizabeth's look are displayed in split screen, to such an extent that they seem to have become one face. Alma frenzies and cries, "Dislike you. I don't feel like you. I'm not Elizabeth Vogler, you are Elizabeth Vogler. I'm only here to help you." Alma leaves, and later returns, to find that Elizabeth has become totally mental. Alma falls into a bizarre state of mind and cuts her arm, constraining Elizabeth's lips to the injury and in this way beating her. Alma packs her things and lets the bungalow be, as the camera gets some distance from the ladies to show the team and chief recording the scene.